Last Friday, when I said the stock market would almost certainly crash even further, people countered me with two classical arguments, both of which I would normally agree, but they don't hold anymore in this specific historical conjuncture. The first argument is the long-term investment argument. Some of them were like, yes, there may be a recession, but so what? Even if I had bought stocks in 2007 right before the Great Recession, I would still have become much richer as long as I was patient enough to hold them. It only took a couple of years for the prices to recover because the long-term growth trend didn't change. That's true in normal days, but not anymore. So keep in mind that this long-term trend you see is not guaranteed by any economic theories. It's just some pure empirical observations that we see from one specific country. This is the Chinese stock market. So if you had bought some stocks right before the Great Recession, you would still be losing a whole bunch of money right now. Some people actually say it's a good thing, because a good stock market means rich people are stealing from the poor, so they would rather have a bad stock market. Well, that's a more philosophical question I can't address right now. But I can tell you that the Chinese stock market looks like this not because the rich doesn't steal from the poor. No, the rich always steals from the poor. The Chinese stock market behaves like this because the rich not only steals from the poor, but also steals from the rich. It's a cesspool of insider trading, where the politically connected ultra-rich just manipulate the stock prices to steal from the sort of rich investors who try to level up. Doesn't it sound exactly like Donald and Elon's expertise? In the US context, maybe you can call it white-on-white crimes. I don't think poor people will be better off if rich people just start stealing from each other. But that's a more complicated question that involving many other variables. I don't want to get to it right now. I just want to say from a pure investment perspective, there's no guarantee that the stock market will keep growing in the long run. Also, this is the Japanese stock market. They're doing okay recently, but if you're one of those suckers who bought stocks in the early 90s, it would take you 30 years to see any profit. I don't know much about the Japanese economy, so I'm not trying to draw a parallel here. I'm just trying to show you again that empirically, long-term growth, long-term profit in the stock market is not guaranteed. Oh, and this is Russia's stock index. They did pretty well before the full-scale invasion, but has been a roller coaster in the last 5 years. I don't think their stock market will have any investment value anytime soon. So what happened? Well, other countries simply stopped trading with Russia because they were afraid that Putin might use his economic muscle to expand his territories. And Trump has not only teamed up with Putin, but has also threatened to rob some territories for himself. Of course, other countries will be more reluctant to trade with the US. That's in addition to all the trade wars. So no matter what long-term growth you observed so far from the US stock market, it's not the case anymore. The US political system is fundamentally different now. The basis for stability is gone. I mean, it wasn't all that good before, but at least there was some minimum level of accountability and transparency. The guys like this still went to jail. And free trade with allies was still a general doctrine of both parties. Now, the two biggest grifters on earth are controlling every aspect of the US financial regulations. That growth chart is a thing of the past. Rest in peace. Now let's talk about the second counter-argument against my market collapse prediction. Some people say that even if there will be a collapse, there's no way for me to predict it. They think what I said was just no more than a 50-50 bet, like those fortune tellers. And the basis of their argument is something called the efficient market theorem. For the record, it's a very useful theorem. It says that when a commodity is traded at a large volume by a large number of independent traders, especially financial assets like stocks and bonds and foreign exchange, the price of that thing will instantly reflect all the good news and bad news of that commodity. So unless you have insider information, there's no way for you to predict where the prices will go in the next moment, because the market already digested all the available information before you have time to react. So if you're just a normal guy like me, you're not supposed to beat the millions of traders who constantly study these commodities. Yes, normally I'm a strong believer of the efficient market theorem, and sometimes I found those smart asses trying to make short-term bets pretty laughable. But this is not a normal time. America has reached a point where the efficient market theorem no longer applies. This is because half of the country, including the Wall Street, has lost their ability to process information. I'll give you a seemingly unrelated example, but you'll see the connection. The red curve is how Republicans perceive the Ukrainian President Zelensky. I'm not surprised that they hated him, but look at how fast their opinions change. This is a famous figure in the news for 5 years now. How can your opinion about him change overnight? Well, the only reason it changed so fast is because one specific person told them that they should change their opinions. This is scary. At least a quarter of the country now has a mind that can be changed by just flipping a switch. I've never seen something like this before in my lifetime, except in books. This is the Cultural Revolution level of mind control. This new phenomenon, I believe, undermines the assumptions required for the efficient market theorem, because people no longer process information independently. So how did Trump achieve that? Well, it's a sophisticated joint operation by the Russian intelligence services, the American religious institutions, and those incel-adjacent podcasters. All these super resourceful institutions equipped with the expertise in messing with human mind have been working side by side to make Trump a god for a large section of the population. Not just the dumb people, but also a lot of powerful rich white men in Wall Street. You know, the hedge fund type who has a lot of money but also some sort of sexual resentment. You see what I mean? Those who can afford a shit ton of sex but don't know the first thing about love. That weird resentment and the lack of true human connections made them convert to the MAGA mindset. For them, it's painful to think Trump is wrong. It physically hurts their stomach to consider the possibility that Trump may not be good at running the economy. These people may be trained in analyzing financial data, but their judgment is clouded by their psychological loyalty to that one person. That's why the efficient market theorem no longer works. The market is no longer efficient at digesting information because people have lost their shit. This is a country who believed that COVID would disappear before Easter in 2020. This is a country who believed that the Democrats rigged the elections even in Republican states. This is a country that believed that the soaring egg prices and the multiple plane crashes that happened under Trump were caused by Joe Biden. Data don't matter anymore. Even the Wall Street foot soldiers are no longer data-oriented. That's weird, but it's true. No matter what they say about the economy, you need to give it a huge discount. That is why in the last video I predicted a further collapse of the US financial market based on the trade wars, the mass firing of federal employees, the mass cancellation of federal contracts, and the poor management of measles and other health crises, and all kinds of chain reactions that will follow. Your classical theories used to be useful, but they are obsolete now. And finally, a disclaimer, I'm not offering investment advice. Okay, don't base your money on what I say. I'm just thinking aloud. Do your own research.